Welcome to Let's Write This Movie, where we write a screenplay
while sharing the process with the internet.
I am your screenwriter, René Garcia.
And I'm your collaborator, Brian Glass.
Now, let's write this movie. Okay, well, I'm just going to start recording, and then we can bicker a little bit. We're recording now.
We don't bicker, we banter. Are we recording?
Yeah, we're recording.
Welcome to Let's Write This Movie.
Why are you doing the intro? We have an intro.
Because you said you're just going to cut it in. We're not going to do anything like production-wise.
No,
I was doing a homemade one version for you.
If I'm going to record, I might as well throw on the graphics and all that. So I should turn off the lights behind me.
I was going to do it live.
Okay, hang on. Turn off the lights behind me.
Okay. Bon appetit. The very freshest of AMWF root beer, the diet formulation, delicious. You should try.
You know, I didn't put up the I failed video on this channel. I failed, everybody. I didn't win, in case you're all wondering.
Old news. Moving past it.
Well, let me just say,
Season 2.
It was a wild ride, Brian.
It was.
And,
Let's do it again.
Yeah, it was unexpected that I got as far as I did. See, I think this is why I didn't put it up, because it's nice to have the conversation with you.
Right. Plus,
I don't even know if you have the time to talk this long, actually.
You have some time between when it happened and now. So, some time to process. And
yeah, it no longer hurts.
Yeah,
I'm not disappointed anymore.
Well, I love the fact that if we're going to put this up, I love the fact that I can now officially go on record for this to say how proud I am of what you did and how great I thought you did. And I thought it was well-deserved, and I wasn't surprised about how far you got, to be honest with you. I mean, I know we kind of nitpicked about what things that could change and may still change if you want to do another, submission or something. But I thought the script overall was fantastic. So I was not as surprised as you were that you even got as far as you did.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that. And I don't know what else to say. I mean, those are all very kind words. I feel like, I think we towards the end of the last season, or whatever you even want to call it, I don't even know if it ever ended, to be honest, but we kind of talked about playing the lottery. Yeah. And this was before any of the results started coming in, I think. And, that's exactly how I went in. I thought, okay, there is, I can only position myself as well as I can through the writing, but after that, it's, the right eyes at the right time kind of thing. And, if the reader or readers just weren't into it for whatever reason, what can you do?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, they 5 minutes later or 2 scripts earlier, it could have been the one that they picked. I don't know.
It's so interesting you say that. We were watching the show Chopped. I don't know if you ever watched that show.
It's a cooking show, right?
It's a cooking show.
Is that the one where they open a box of ingredients or whatever, and then they always pull their head away like they smelled a fart or something?
What could I possibly do with this ingredient?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So this show was like it was a special, and what they did is they had chefs, people who are the judges, went behind, and they were the actually ones competing. They were competing with their spouses or significant others, and these guys are all like professionals, all right, and they know what they're doing, and so all their dishes looked amazing. And we're like, I'd eat that. See the next one? I'd eat that too.
Yeah.
All of them just look fantastic. And as they're going through the judging, at one point, one of the guys says, one of the guys who's judging just says, you just need a little bit more salt. And for some reason that really stuck with me. I was like, did he though? For your palate, he did.
Right.
But the next person was loving it. You know what I mean? And it's like there's so much that is subjective in that show and food, and in terms of like who's reading your script, who happens to be having a good day that day, who's in the mood for a rom-com, who just, oh god, we're having a scary mood for a while, that's interesting, or who's like sick of zombies, who's saying we don't have enough vampires. You never know what you're gonna get.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So to me, to be in that finalist section, that to me says every one of these movies is probably sellable. they had to grant a grand prize winner.
Yeah.
And who knows, maybe those 10 finalists, the 10 other finalists, whatever, are never going to get in front of someone, and it's probably our loss, because you probably had 10 good movies right there, depending on the day, that the people, read them. There's probably not the consensus on the grand prize winner. So I don't know, man. To me, it's so much taste. So much of it just comes down to taste. That I know that you're not getting in front of the people you want to get in front of, but that to me doesn't discount how far you got and what it could have been.
Oh, yeah, I appreciate that. And totally, I'm of the same mind. I think that the fact that, right out of the gate, first shot, first competition, it got as far as it did is, it speaks volumes about this process. Yeah. And I think this process turned out a quality script.
Yeah, I don't know a lot of people could necessarily do it this way, but
I know.
I'm glad it worked.
It's weird, right?
I'm glad it worked.
You know why we need to record more often, Brian? Why we shouldn't miss weeks?
Why is that? Something to do with your chin hair?
My double chin. It's like, this is the only way I gauge how fat I am.
Oh, you just have to stick your neck out more. Then the chin goes away. And no one knows any different. I look totally normal.
Exactly. Anyway, yeah, because this is the most I look at myself on any given day, is this. That's
just one of us, man. I walk around with a mirror. Yeah. There you are.
It's like mounted to your chest like this.
Yes. This is the only difficult part about recording with you. I have to take the mirror off. But, next best
You have your monitor.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's not quite the same. I have to share it with you. It's like...
I know. Diminishes your beauty having the beast next to you.
Wow. I went far.
Okay, so... There we are, everybody. Let's close the door. Well, let's not close the door entirely, because there are some other things I'm working on. I'm already securing the artist for the animatic. I already talked it over with him. We haven't set a price yet, because he wants to know like how many drawings are going to be necessary, blah, blah, blah. And I think that's going to fall on me to essentially kind of like sketch out what I would need. I think I can save a lot of... the spend on the artwork by just requesting just a panel of different expressions per character, right? And then be able to get that, like put that into, I don't know, a Illustrator, turn them into vectors. Is that the right program, Brian?
That is.
Yeah. And then we can just use those wherever we need to, right? Because a lot of this is going to be just dialogue, right? You just need people, you just need to keep switching between two people talking with different expressions.
It depends on, did you kind of land on a scene you want to use?
Oh, no, this is for the entire movie.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Ambitious.
I know, Brian. This is the way I work.
Why not start with a scene, see if you like it, to expand to the whole movie?
Oh, okay. That makes sense. That's a good point. I like your pragmatism.
I don't know. It's because I have to watch the wallet too. So, it's a lot easier to spend a little bit.
This is all my investment, Brian. You're watching my wallet?
We're not just like, colleagues here. We're friends. Yes.
Well,
I am watching your wallet.
Look at that.
And I don't know why, but like whenever I think about the scene that would work, I keep coming back to the morgue scene as being like a scene. Yeah, like a really interesting scene where the
coin goes in the girl's mouth.
Yeah, I don't know why, but it's like that's such a visceral scene for me. I can always envision it such a neat, like almost like a oh god, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna pull a little George on you on this. It's almost like a little bit of a tone poem, get a little bit of a tone poem on that one. You know what I mean? But it does set an interesting tone of like, this is the flavor of the movie. It's going to go comedic. It's going to have, scary stuff in it too. But this is like a nice melding of those two for some reason for me. It feels like it's a good scene that encapsulates it.
I feel you on that. I feel like, and this is what I think really sets this script apart, at least mentally for me, is that there are so many of these little vignettes that you can hook onto and say, that is cool. That I remember that. You know?
Right.
And, just bringing it back kind of full circle here, like a tone poem. I don't even know what a tone poem is. That might have something to do with the process, right? If you're writing 5 to 10 pages a week and you're trying to like have a little something there that you can, sink your teeth into,
right?
You end up with a movie full of that every 10 pages.
It's an episodic movie.
Exactly.
I was going to keep going, but after the 7th, it was like the natural stop.
So, sidebar, did you watch? Are you still subscribed to my other channel, Brian? Not the tech one.
Which one?
The Working Author one.
Yeah.
Did you watch my little spoiler chat?
No.
Oh, okay.
It's very fresh in my mind right now. Did you watch the
movie?
I did. Twice.
Okay.
Twice in the theater.
Wow, twice in the theater. You must have liked it.
I loved it.
Oh my God.
And that's why I didn't watch your thing yet.
Okay. All right.
That's the only reason.
I get it. That's fine. I thought the reason you brought up the tone poem thing is because I said that multiple times as a joke.
No, because of the whole Collider thing.
That's the only reason I brought it up too, because of the Collider thing. All right. So.
But I do remember him originally saying that too.
I vaguely remember it from like.
It was for Phantom Menace.
Yeah.
And it's behind the scenes stuff. He's like, some sort of tone poem. Like the way they say it in Collider is dead on.
Oh, yeah.
It's the whole thing.
You close your eyes. First of all, with your eyes open, I think it's still pretty good. Close your eyes, and it might as well be George Lucas talking to you.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, so enough of this banter, Brian, or bickering, or whatever we're going to call it. Let's talk about the next script again.
So going into this conversation, René, before we started recording, had something I had not seen for a while. Even though we talked about certain things he might do for the next script, I never saw this particular thing until this conversation. And that is, he says, I have an idea, and he's going to talk about it here in a second, but I saw the gleam in your eye. This is the first time I've seen like that again. And every time I've seen it has given you scripts, not just our last show, but even before that. I could tell, I could see it in your face, see it in your eyes. And it was nice to see that again. So let that be the prelude to what you're about to say.
Well, now you freaking hyped it up, man. Now,
Bar is up there, buddy.
Now I'm going to disappoint.
Not going to disappoint me.
Well, I'm going to disappoint audiences, Brian.
Nah.
I know you're in this, to the end. So even if it's garbage, you're going to be like, yeah, let's go. Let's do it.
Saw the gleam.
Okay. So this is a RomCom. I should get that out of the way because I confused Brian when I started talking about my thing. It's like, where's the murder? Where's the thriller? This is where it's going, right? No, it's a RomCom. Oh, let me recalibrate my brain. Okay, so so the concept is that it's worlds colliding between an Asian guy and a non-Asian girl. I don't know if she's necessarily going to be Caucasian, but that's just kind of like default in my mind for now. And I think it just kind of makes sense in a kind of stereotypical fashion. But so the concept is that the Asian guy, he's getting older, like we'll say late 30s, and his grandmother, who basically raised him, is on her deathbed, and it's just understood within the family that she's going to pass away soon. Now, she has a very strong personality, and she in Asian cultures, there's a lot of just automatic respect for the elders, right? So when they demand something, the younger generations are essentially obligated to fulfill that, right? Within reason. Anyway, so she's dying. We'll say she's in her 90s, and her last wish to her grandson, our guy, we'll call him Jimmy, is that she wants him to be married. She wants to see him get married before she passes away. And if not that, at the very least, like be on his way to being married. And she's worried like, hey, do you even have like a steady girlfriend, blah, blah, blah. And so in a kind of like a moment of weakness, I don't know, or maybe just frustration, like he just wants to placate her. And he says, yeah, of course I do. you know, and she's like suddenly surprised. She perks up like, oh, bring her. I want to meet her. Right? He's like, oh, she's busy. You know, he just kind of like tries to blow her off. She's like, no, you will bring her. And so now he's kind of like in this pickle because he doesn't want his grandmother to, you know, to die having like bad feelings towards him for not seeing this girl. Right? And so he decides he's going to hire an actress to play his girlfriend just for like one family event. Now, we cut to, this is not actual like a direction in the movie, but just story-wise, we now jump to the actress, this girl, struggling actress in Hollywood. She's not landing any parts. Basically, she's being told, you know, she doesn't have enough credits, not enough acting experience, blah, blah, blah. She is, you know, living in a ratty apartment with her roommate that she also found on Craigslist. I don't know, but you know, she's going to be the comedic foil in this, the roommate that is. And the girl, we'll call her Susan, she sees this ad for like a 1-day acting gig to play the role of this girlfriend. And she's like, oh, you know what, I'll do it. It's like $300 for the day. Why not? Right? And so that's how Susan and Jimmy meet. Right? And so, you know, he kind of preps her on what to say and, you know, like who major players are within this little like family gathering. And he pays her $300 and it goes off pretty well. Right. And they both think like, okay, hey, that was very nice. We're not going to see each other again. Here's $300. But grandma is hanging on. Like she's not dying. Not that anyone really wants her to die. Right. But in light of this guy's scheme, right, and the fact that there are going to be multiple family gatherings throughout the year, culminating possibly in grandma's birthday, you know, he needs to, it's expected that he's going to be bringing this girl to the events. And so he has to keep hiring Susan. And, you know, as their relationship progresses, the detail becomes deeper. And now Susan has to like learn flashcards and she has to train her palate to accept, you know, just like exotic Chinese food, you know, things
Chinese food is always good.
Well, you only know the Americanized Chinese food, Brian. Made by non-Chinese people.
Doug, Sam, Keith.
Exactly. You ever go to a Chinese food restaurant and then, you know, the little kitchen door that swings both ways so that when they bring the food in and out, right? Yeah. It swings inward and you get a glimpse of the line cooks. Yeah. Do they ever look Chinese to you, Brian?
Huh. Good question, says the white guy. Don't know how I should answer that one.
All right, that's fine.
Maybe they studied in China.
You know what? That's wholly possible. You know,
but improbable.
One of the YouTube channels that I discovered recently is this guy. I think he's Hispanic, maybe. I'm not sure exactly, but he speaks fluent Korean because he lives in Korea, and then he'll come to the States and he'll go to like Koreatown and stuff like that. And he'll like talk to these people in English, you know, and they all have like broken English. They're trying to communicate. And then suddenly he just busts out like his perfect Korean.
Wow.
Right? And they're all like, whoa, you know, and I just love their reactions. It's so natural and human and good natured. It just fills me with joy to see it. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. You know, they're now like really getting to know each other. Right. But our guy, Jimmy, he's really set in his ways, right? And maybe he's kind of like a tragic hero, if you will, in that he is an all-around great guy, right? But he has made this decision to basically just be single for the rest of his life due to some, you know, bad experiences with the relationships previously, and he just decided, you know what, it's just not worth it. Now, this girl, Susan, she is also trying to date, right? But every guy that she's dating is just like a loser, or it's just a terrible match, or whatever. And so she realizes, and maybe this is like something her roommate says offhandedly, you know, she decides, you know what, maybe I should just be with Jimmy. We get along. Like, I'm not really acting anymore, right? And I know everything about him, and it's all tolerable, if not favorable. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so he's not making any advances on her because, as far as he's concerned, she's just someone he's hired, right, to act. And so it becomes this kind of like reversal of roles where she has to pursue him. And maybe there's some of that like awkwardness of like, I've never asked a guy out on a date. I don't know how this works or whatever. And so in the third act, when she gets up the nerve to proposition him to like, hey, you know what, maybe we should see each other, you know, non-professionally, right? He rejects her. And, you know, it's not like, you know, it's not done poorly or mean-spirited or anything like that. It's just, you know, matter of fact, like, look, I don't think it's going to work out. You know, you're going to get bored and all of these things about me, blah, blah, blah. And so, okay, let me just back up here. It can either go this way that I'm describing, which is where my heart is, because I feel like this just tells a more, like a more interesting, more human story, and kind of, you know, tragic in a way, but tragic in a I don't know, I want to say a good way, but cathartic. There's a lot of catharsis here because I think we can look at people that we know in our lives, or just maybe in our circle, who are fundamentally broken in certain ways, right? Not in the way of like, they committed suicide or whatever, but in other emotional ways. And I want to kind of capture that a little bit here with this Jimmy character. Mm-hmm. And I think that would just, you know, that would tell a more satisfying story for me. Now, so continuing down the dark path, if you will. So she's rejected. Jimmy goes on his way. There will probably even be a scene prior to this where Grandma dies, and Susan goes with Jimmy to the funeral, just because, you know, she cares for him and she wants to be supportive. And, you know, he's even like, why are you here? Right? We don't need to pretend anymore. And that's when she, you know, is like, no, I'm just here as me, you know, someone who cares about you. Right. And so we kind of get the beginnings of, oh, there's might be something here. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so after she gets rejected, maybe the movie ends where Susan goes to Grandma's grave and is just kind of like talking to her and trying to find out, you know, why is this happening? Like, what happened to him? You know, I don't know. I mean, obviously she's going to know what happened to him because they're probably going to get that out in dialogue earlier. But in any event, so she's talking. Jimmy comes up to visit Grandma as well, and this is when they, you know, Susan and Jimmy kind of have a heart-to-heart on a different level, right, with no real expectations, and then their future is kind of, you know, it ends amicably, and, you know, there's room for the possibility of a romantic relationship, but it could also go the other way, which is they just never see each other again. So that's the dark path.
What does the Hollywood light path look like?
So they're struggling in the restaurant when she's like saying, hey, I like you, let's be together or whatever. And then it's just going to be a back and forth with like fun, like he's trying to tell her like, no, it's not going to work out. But she has got that kind of like spunky attitude, right? And she's got like some quick barbs to like make him laugh and get him to let his guard down. And he'll be like, okay, let's give it a shot or whatever. And then it'll say they lived happily for 3 months. And that's how it ends.
That's your happy ending?
Well, it's happier, right? It's happier.
That's funny. Roll credits.
Roll credits.
I think that the best comedy comes from drama and from how people react to drama. And the ending that you said is dark, to me, is way, way more interesting.
Well, only because I didn't flesh out the light one Right.
No, because as you were talking, I was thinking about the arc of the movie. And I was thinking there's probably going to be a funeral scene before you said this, there's probably going to be the funeral scene because you set it up with the grandma, and she's going to have to die, even though you're like, wow, she's like this beacon, that kind of carries you through it. And then when she's gone, that's going to have to be something that they deal with, and how they deal with it is going to be probably towards the climax of the movie, I'm guessing. So I was thinking that, as it was happening, that would be a very emotional aspect of the movie, probably not one of the funnier parts, right? So although there have been plenty of movies that where they do have fun at funerals, or there's something funny as a result of it, it feels to me like that would actually be a truly dramatic point of the movie for these two characters, and that I wouldn't see them getting together at that point. But I love that gap. I had written down some notes kind of as we were talking, and before I even got there, I was just like, 2 years later, 2 years later, they meet up again and they're in different spaces. He's more open, more receptive to something. She's wiser. She's had more experiences. And I mean, first off, I love the idea for the movie. I totally can see it. And I feel like there are some things in there, whether you meant to or not, that kind of touch on your life that I think are super, super interesting. That I think would be great through lines for the movie. So give you an example. Before we started recording today, we had a pretty detailed conversation about food. Food is something that you take very seriously. I would say that you're somewhat of a food snob, which I think is good. I mean, I don't have a problem with that. I like people who have a definitive, point of view about certain foods, and what's good, what's bad, even if you're wrong.
Hey, I ate at Del Taco all throughout this little break at the end of the year. So I love Del Taco.
Okay, but when you want to have a good conversation with someone, a deep conversation, whether it's a date or whether it's a friend, you're not going to Del Taco. You're going somewhere to experience it because it enhances that. Yeah. It enhances that for you. And so I was thinking, if that gets brought into this movie, kind of like as a through line, you mentioned like the authentic Chinese food versus the Chinese food that's been Americanized.
Right.
That's really, really an interesting, I mean, it could be really a metaphor that kind of goes through the entire movie. About, her naivete and her childlike look at, love and relationships. It's based, it is paralleled by, chop suey and things like this. This is not authentic Chinese. You don't understand the love and the ingredients and all this stuff that goes into it. And, maybe grandma's a great cook as well. And, that's something that the grandson and her share. There's like a true bond between them. It's not just like my grandma is the matriarch. There's something there that's transcended generations.
Yeah,
that they share, and she's never going to understand because she's some American nitwit who's really cute. Meanwhile, she develops this sense of understanding. Her palate grows. Like there's so much you can do with it. Like every conversation they have could be over, at a restaurant. Let's meet at a restaurant. That's where they have their initial discussion, and food, of course, inevitably comes into it because he's got something that's like off menu or something. She's got the crap that we order. You know what I mean?
Sure.
There's so much you can do there and bring the Renee to it that I was like really excited as you were talking about that. I don't know if you meant to talk about food before and during this time as much, but to me, it just felt like such a natural fit for something like this. In fact, you also mentioned that she's going to be trying to go on dates, and her dates, are at some kind of like gastropub. No, it's like some gastropub, and she's with Chad, and Chad's talking about this and that, and everything's a little bit kind of cool. And then she goes out with the guy with the ponytail, and he's cool in his own way, And then she goes out with this guy, takes her to Outback, and they have a blooming blossom, And as this kind of goes on, she's completely looking at it as like this is
pedestrian.
Not pedestrian, but it's like this is not my life. This is not what I want out of my life. I want something more fulfilling. Not just at the restaurant, but I want real authentic experiences. So to me, I was like, this is such a cool theme to bring in and could kind of like help wrap the movie. You can wrap so many interesting scenes around things like that, especially if you're going for comedy.
Yeah.
You know. So getting to know I wrote some notes as we were talking. So getting to know each other through food, falling in love over that, or understanding. I think that a strong grandmother grandson bond would be awesome. I also was thinking like, she's going to be when he said like she calls him up, to go to the funeral, and he's like, why would you even do that? And, I was thinking that she finds out about the funeral and she just goes to the funeral, and then he's like, why are you here? People are greeting him or greeting her rather, and he's just as surprised because she just showed up, and she thinks that this is her moment, but he's having these like conflicted emotions. Like he just lost someone that's so important, and he can't have that conversation with her right now. Even though she may be ready to do that, or she thinks she is, and he's not in that state. He's not in that place where he's even open to something like that. Anyway, I think everything else I wrote is just kind of like talking about the same type of stuff. I was very interested in this idea, and I think it'd make a really, really fun movie. Really cool.
Yeah. As you're talking, it's starting to I'm starting to see the structure. Now, I don't know if it would be gimmicky to have repetition throughout the movie, but I'm kind of digging it now. It's kind of like an interesting hook, with the food and the dating, like where every time, the many instances she has to act with this guy when she, between those moments, we see her dating a new guy or going on a date with a new guy, and they're going to their own restaurant, right? Some, whatever the things that you said, right? And then, maybe as the audience start thinking like, these two might be really good for each other. Like the last guy that she's dating seems like a good fit as well. Right. And then we think like, oh, it's not going to work out between these two. But then she'll have that moment where, she's eating something with him, like through food, right? And maybe the grandmother in this story is, a known restaurateur. Is it restaurateur, Brian, with an N, or is it restaurateur?
I think it's with an N.
That's the thing. I thought that too my whole life. And then I heard Gordon Ramsay refer to someone as a restaurateur. And then I looked it up, and there's no N.
Really?
And maybe I need to look it up again because I'm not trusting my memory here, but I did do this, and I was very surprised with what I found. So, I don't know. I'm just going to say restaurateur because it just sounds more natural to me. And so that's how she finds out that the grandmother died, because like it's in the paper or something like that.
Right.
Like owner of, Yang's Chinese, whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, grandma.
Founder, maybe.
What?
Founder. She could be the founder of it.
Okay.
She wasn't actively. Yeah.
Well, you know what I mean? Just like someone who's like well known in the community.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
That's it, Brian. I just feel like there's something here now.
It totally is.
I just don't think that it's going to be a commercial movie. It won't be a commercial movie in the States, but this is a movie that's meant to penetrate China, just like my last movie was. Like Crazy Rich Asians.
Yeah, but good.
Oh, you saw that movie? You didn't like it?
I got through about a half of it.
Oh, that's too bad.
Before
I didn't see it.
Did you see it?
No.
Before I had to look at my wife saying, I can't do any more of this. You're going to have to watch this alone. She's like, oh, thank God. It was terrible.
Wait, she said that to you, or you said that to her?
I said, I can't do any more.
Okay.
And she said, thank God, because it was terrible.
You guys don't like Asians?
Terribly overacted.
That's Asian acting, bro.
No, it's not, because we just watched,
I'm just
what was the other one? There was one before that we both really enjoyed. The one with, I can't remember their names. But it was a rom-com. The woman was a successful restaurateur either way. She was in the movie.
Oh,
and she was opening up a new restaurant, and this is all Asian, so this is not like it's not like and then she runs into her ex-beau, you know, who didn't really make much of himself, and he's working with his dad at an air conditioner.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Yes, this is on Netflix. This is
Yeah.
Always Be My Maybe.
Yeah, so we both enjoyed that. That was a lot of fun.
Okay.
So I don't remember what my point was on that. Where I was going.
Oh,
you just said you don't like Asian movies or Asians.
Yeah, I said that's Asian acting, is overacting. And no, I didn't mean that. I was kidding.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, so, well, great, Brian. I think, is that all we have to talk about? I think I have the next idea here.
I think so. I mean, if you like it, should we formalize it in the next episode?
Yeah, I'll probably have to write a little, the synopsis a synopsis of it.
Yeah. I think it's cool. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it sucks because now I'm going to have to research exotic Asian food or Chinese food, and I'm like, I don't know Chinese food. I am Susan in this story. I don't know anything.
Well, pick a food you might be interested in, and you should go and experience it alone, not with me.
Yeah, exactly. I'm told.
I am Sarah or Susan in this.
You're Susan as well. We're both Susan.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm told that northern Chinese food is the exotic Chinese food that you typically wouldn't get here in the States.
Okay. I've had
I used to work for a Chinese company.
I've had Vietnamese food.
Yeah, well, that's good.
Yeah, there's some really good stuff, but I would never like really order something like that. But I was with some people and tried it. I'm like, this is
was
really
it me?
good.
Was I the people?
No, this is years ago before I even knew you.
And now you love pho.
You are a person.
I feel like I have so much personality that I could fill like a group of people.
Ah, gotcha. Well, in my mind, my terrible memory, it was you. It was you all along.
Yeah.
Always been you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Never really gave a fuck. I had to say it.
Clever.
Oh, not.
All right. Well, that I have nothing else to add, except to say that this is, Brian astutely pointed out, this is being drawn from a lot of my own life experience. And I just started thinking about it again. Like, I've had this idea for a long time, even before I wanted to be a screenwriter, only just I thought it was an interesting idea that someone would hire someone to pretend to be like either his wife or his girlfriend.
Right.
And then, just to get through some kind of like social gathering, and then they would eventually fall in love. Right. I think that was the first rom-com idea I had ever.
Mm-hmm.
And that just kind of like stuck with me. And as I'm getting older and, I have no plans on being married, my grandmother, every time I see her, which isn't often, she will always ask me, who's your girlfriend? Who's your girlfriend? And, it's getting to the point now because whenever I say I don't have one, I'm not seeing anyone.
It's Susan. You say Susan.
Exactly. Well, it's starting to turn into like an argument. Right? And I can't get out of these arguments. Like, she's like, why don't you have a girlfriend? And I'm like, I just want to be single. She's like, and then my grandmother always pull this card. You don't love me. And I'm like, what does this have to do with you? You don't love me. And then she'll look away all sad. And so I started thinking, you know what? Maybe I could hire someone. Maybe I could make the rom-com thing be true. So I think because of that, because I was thinking about it so much over the end of the year and having all the family events and stuff, that the script, the story started to, coalesce in my brain.
Dude, that's the first scene of your movie. And the next scene is your mom pulling you aside and telling you she's actually really sick.
Yeah.
And you going back in there and saying, I didn't really want to say anything because it's so early, Yeah. I did meet someone, and the relief on her face and blah, blah, blah. Off to the races we are.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It writes itself. I just have to live life. I'm hanging out with my grandmother a lot now. She's like, why are you here again? No, just talk to me. Just talk to me. Ask me about
say something funny. Do you do anything funny?
Get out of here. Let me die in peace.
Oh, there's the dark version of the
Exactly.
show.
Exactly. I'm like, oh, that's good. That's good, Grandma.
Yeah, the dark version is you hired a grandma, you know.
I hired a
What
grandma to
the
get
hell?
Susan. Oh wow, this is just like freaking, got
Meta.
crazy.
Yeah, that's what
Inception.
I'm saying. Like I knew if you
Plot
just got to
twist.
know me, that someone would like me more. I knew it, and now I've proven my point. I don't want any of you. I don't want my fake grandma or my fake girlfriend.
Yeah, at the end of the movie, the Jimmy character just turns to someone off camera, and the camera pans, and it's his Brian friend, and the Brian like gives him money. It's like, all right, you win the bet. Told you.
Roll credits.
Exactly. And it just cuts back to Susan. She's like, what the fuck?
What the fuck?
Exactly.
It's more of a comedy than a romantic comedy at that point.
No, it's
Or a comedy.
absurdity.
Yeah, love it. I love both. That's part 2.
Yeah.
Sequel.
Grandma claws her
Don't you
way out
always
of the
write in
grave.
trilogies anyway?
What?
Don't you always write in trilogies?
Yeah. So that
well,
would be
there it is.
the follow-up, the sequel, with different actors, straight to video.
Exactly. Oh man, I love it.
Okay, well, that's all I have to say, Brian. Anything else you want to add?
If you loved it and this episode, please hit like and subscribe somewhere and tell a friend. How's that?
That was
I
excellent.
don't usually do that part.
That was excellent, Brian. Okay, we'll see you
Hey,
next
is this
time.
a show that
I'm not sure. I can't remember.
do it
We
all.
do so many. We're doing so many now, Brian. I don't know.
Peace.
Peace.